Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Mace from 99X, and I will be your moderator for today's session. We are really excited to have you here as we explore how organizations can move from siloed data structures to connected AI-driven ecosystems. So this is all about making smarter decisions, building scalable systems, and staying ahead in an increasingly digital world. I think more people are joining now. But anyway, let me quickly introduce our two speakers today. We have Espen, Head of Digitalization at NRC Group, bringing first-hand experience from the construction and rail sectors where he's led major digital transformation efforts. And we have Hasid, the CEO of 99X, with years of experience in building product-driven engineering teams and implementing cutting-edge tech across the industries. So I think before we start, here is what the next hour will look like. First, Espen will walk us through NRC's journey toward building a robust data platform. Then Hasid will take us into the world of agentic AI and how multi-agent workflows are reshaping the future of work. And finally, we will wrap up with a live Q&A, so please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go. Over to you, Espen.
Thank you, Mace, and good afternoon, everybody, for joining us on this session. And just share my screen now. I hope everyone can see it there, and that you can hear me. So my subject today is, as Mace indicated, it's breaking down silos and streamlining your business data, and then really to show how to break down these data silos could foster growth within a business. And if you take a look at businesses today, they are having more software-related systems than ever before. They are spending more time on software-related systems than ever before. But if you start to look and dig into the efficiency of organizations and compare the numbers to a few years back, you don't see any improvements significantly so of those operations, because you see there are more managers per employee. And even those managers that you have claim that the time they have available to spend on managing is less than before. And these numbers are a bit counterintuitive, taking into considerations what we would expect, call it software systems, to do on behalf and helping organizations to improve efficiency. And why aren't this happening, right? And I think in a way there are too many systems, there are too many things that you would have to relate to in your day-to-day operations. And as I met one guy at the conference I was at some time back, he said to me, Espen, I'm dreaming myself back to the time when we could do all the work on pen and paper, because it was much easier then. It was much easier to stay in control. And I started to grin, but when he was arguing why, I had to give him right, because we haven't helped him in his day-to-day work. We just then presented him with a vast number of systems which didn't really bring any efficiency throughout the value chain. So I think if you compare it, we'd call it an IKEA set of furnitures. It's coming in parts, and it's coming with more or less good working instructions. So you would have to put everything together manually before you get your furniture in place, instead of presenting them with a ready-made furnitures. And this is what this presentation is all about. I'm going to tell you first about the challenges that these data silos create in the operations of businesses. I'm then going to address how we should work to address those challenges, and at the end show them how this can be done technically, and then at the end I will summarize the whole presentation. So why are these data silos a challenge to the business performance? And if you start to look, who is then buying the different systems that a worker is using. That is normally done to the different functions, finance or operations. They are then acquiring the ERP system. HR, obviously, the HCM systems, time recording systems. Sales and marketing are looking into CRM systems. And as such, you can see that those functions, they're in a way happy because their work streams get supported by these systems. The CEOs are also normally happy because they get ready-made reports in PowerPoints, all put together by the middle manager normally. That could be a project manager, that could be a department manager, and those people do normally have, I call it a value chain responsibility. They are having their P&L responsibility within their area of responsibility. They do normally have the most number of direct reporting employees, and they are also normally having the most customer contact in their deliveries. And these people that are working then across the value chain, they will have to work on the top of all these data silos, trying to combine them through Excel sheets, which they download from several sources, and make their individual adjustments and try to put together and consolidate the reports that is going up to the top management. Meaning that they also have to do a lot of decisions on a limited situational awareness picture, limited or not limited available of data, but limited of relevant and key data available, driving then the decisions towards their experience, intuition, and assumptions. And let me take a real world example with one company I worked with some time back. I was then sitting down with the aftermarket function, and that's immensely important within the businesses, especially in related to the project-driven businesses, because that's creating the long-term revenues in between the cycles that those project-driven businesses normally experience. They were then supporting their aftermarket through the CRM system. There they got all the client contacts and so on. And there they had to respond and sell, call it new parts, spare parts, whatever, and handle the maintenance request that came in from the customers. In so doing, they had a good overview of their customers in the CRM system. However, when they had to then look into details about the equipments and spare parts, they had to go into an engineering database, which was not even connected to the CRM. So then they would have to work with two different systems, and two different systems with a set of data that didn't exactly match. And it was extremely frustrating for the individual. It was frustrating for the clients who had to wait unnecessarily long to get the answers they needed and to get the parts they needed. And it was hampering the business because it was impacting the revenue from the very important aftermarket in that industry. And everything was actually having its root cause there in the lack of flow of information between crucial systems with data that you needed then to serve the clients in the aftermarket function. And that is why I say that to move away from that, to consolidate data, you don't have to replace your ERP system or your HR system or whatever you're having. That's just going to create a new silo in a new system. So what you're looking at is then to consolidate the key data from these subsystems into a data platform, then to give you data-driven insights, which is then with near real-time data, which is updated automatically, so that you can have a clear picture when you're planning, when you're executing, when you're making decisions, and you would limit the amount of reporting that you're doing because the reports are available through an insight portal. So that's the direction that we're driving towards. And if you're looking at these numbers then from quality research based, so there was an Accenture study a few years back saying that if you compare a company with a good flow of data to those who didn't have it, companies which had a good flow of data between systems saved up to 2 hours per employee per day. And they had a growth rate which was about 6 times higher than companies without this automated data flow. So the business impact of these things is tremendous. And very often these challenges are left unnoticed in businesses because this fragmented data silo landscape is something of a modus operandi which you get used to. So you leave a lot of potential back at the floor, which you never are able to realize due to these data silos. And even worse, you could imagine then that the IT functions were able to address these challenges, but no, with what an article in Harvard Business Review said, that the IT functions, they are normally too focused on keeping the lights on, i.e. keeping then the ERP systems, the CRM systems up and running, instead of looking towards solutions to solve real-world business problems. And in so doing, departments also started to correct some of these pain points and do investments directly, meaning that 60% of investments then in IT comes then from outside IT departments. And that is then, they're trying then to control the challenge about data silos, but instead you're creating a shadow IT and reinforcing the problem that you're into. So, and it starts, the keyword here is then solutions to business problem. And then it's not in the first place a technology questions. It's then really to sit down and understand what are the core needs of the business. Map out processes, understand challenges, and then you can then start to address the technology and what kind of technologies you can use to solve them. But it's then to understand the business problem, the core need. And let's take an example here. Tabasco, as you see here, have a very strong brand identity because the colors of the Tabasco has then been renamed Tabasco Red. So the brand itself is very much then related to this red color. And then to keep that red color in the same way in all bottles that is being shipped worldwide is then crucial to maintain the brand identity. And how do you solve this then to keep the Tabasco Red color? Is that solved through advanced, call it AI solution, to using advanced, call it optics, and so on? There would be a lot of alternatives, but the way that is solved then the Tabasco Red is in a way simple. To give the pickers a wooden stick painted in the color, which they use when they go out then on the fields to pick the chilies, and they only pick the chilies with colors which then are very close to the colors at this so-called Petit Baton Rouge, which they're using when they're out there on the fields. And then they actually address the challenge at the bottom and really maintain the brand identity. So really to understand and address and solve the problem to the right means. And it's not very good at maybe at a tech webinar to say that you can solve this with a wooden stick and some color red, but it shows the importance of understand the challenge that you're using and how to solve it. And in a business context, going back to focusing on your operations, you would then have to start to address the questions, what problem are you solving? And to solve that problem, what kind of insight do you need? And what kind of data do you need to get that insight? Let me take then an example here. Say that, let's take the NRC context. Of course, a key cost component at NRC Group, that is man hours worked. So to have a good control of the operations that you have then call it flawless execution of projects, you would really need to manage the hours that you're spending. So that means you would need data on the hours that the people are using. But is that it? Okay, you have then received that an employee is reporting that he has worked an hour. Is that valuable? Not really. It's only valuable to the HR function, who is then responsible to pay those individual the salary, and it has some minor relevance to the finance department for the, call it, liquidity assessment. However, for that hour to make some more value, you would have to combine it with something. You would have to combine that hour with a production code that you're working on in that hour. That gives you some more information, but still, you would also need to know how many hours should we use on that production code itself. Then that hour starts to add some value to the problem that we're solving. But the fourth piece of data you would need to connect that hour to would be how far are you in the completion of those tasks? And only then can you actually address the problem that you're trying to solve at the top, the flawless execution then of projects. So the hour, and then you need a lot of different sources for that hour in itself to create value. Because all these, call it value-adding parts to that hour, they are coming from different systems within the IT architecture at NRC Group, and it's the same in most companies. And you would imagine that that is normally easy. And the way that it's been solved, it was solved at NRC, and it's been solved in the same way at other companies I've been working through in my function as in Incrementy. They do integrations between the systems directly. That means that you're solving one problem. Okay, I have to make an integration to my CRM system to address this thing. Then there is another thing showing up next week. Okay, we need to connect something with the ERP and the payroll, with the training management system. And that is then you're solving one problem at a time without a clear picture of where we're heading into a future. And piece by piece, you're creating then a spaghetti architecture in your IT setup. What that spaghetti architecture causes you, that means that you're getting more and more stuck with the core systems that you're operating, because to change them, you would have to adjust a lot of integrations. You would have to, because there are interdependencies, maybe there are, call it interdependencies which you're not aware of all the consequences when you're making changes. And that means that your ability to adjust your, call it core applications with this business logic to the, call it top performers on the markets is getting more and more limited, because the costs of changing systems are increasing significantly. True, because you're in a way locked into a spaghetti architecture, which then limits then at the very end your ability to innovate. So that's what we're saying. Instead of doing all these point-to-point integrations, we then established what we can say a company data platform using the principles in platformization. And let's say then at the service layer on the top, that is then driven by the business needs. What challenges, what key insights do you need to operate your business? And those insights will then differ from function to function, and from what level of the organization you're looking at. The insights that you're needing as a CEO differs from the insights that you need as a project manager. So that means that the insights on the top here is then driving the set of data that you're pulling into this data platform, which is the stable core, because the data that you would need will then normally survive the different sets of business models that you will adopting in one way or the other. So that's going to be the stable element. And then you see what kind of data do you need then to share between those different subsystems here at the bottom. So that means that we avoid, to a greater extent, the point-to-point integrations at the bottom, which makes it easier for us to experiment on the systems that we're using. That means that we can test a new time reporting system in combination with the current time reporting system, and then get, call it, user feedback all the time. What do they prefer to work with, and what are the user experiences down there? And then you would say, hey, most of these systems at the bottom, they come with a dashboard and everything. Yes, that's very true. But if you set yourself in a function, that means that you will get a nice dashboard from the ERP system. No question about it. You will get a lot of good displays from your OT data, from your IoT data. but it's only covering parts of the value chain. So to get an holistic view of your business, you would have to extract those key data from the data platform, which is then pulling data from the different subsystems. The business logic still resides then within the supporting applications at the bottom. The supporting applications at the bottom is still containing the master data, but so-called the single source of truth, for call it the business decisions, that will reside then in the data platform, which is then also transporting data between those different subsystems. So that gives us a lot of flexibility to innovate, test, experiment, and that allows us then to pilot solutions at individual projects without doing a change which is impacting all the projects in the whole company with the risk that entails. So how are we solving it? We have then decided to use open source solutions. And the reason for that is it's going to be faster than, in a way, building from scratch. And it's allowing us to do it step by step in an incremental approach. In this, in NRC now, we're using Airbyte then for data extraction, Dagster for the pipeline orchestrations, dbt for transformation. But what kind of open source module you use? There are several on the market, but we have then decided to use open source for cost reasons and for the ability to move faster and then produce value to the operations as soon as possible, instead of engaging on a long-term project, which is then handled in staffs and in call it project organizations, and is not implemented in the business. So to create, call it instant impact and improvements continuously. That is why we've chosen to use a platform based upon open source components. The way we moved forward, we started by interviewing a lot of people at different levels in different functions. We sent out questionnaire to a wider group of people. We analyzed financial numbers. We analyzed experience reports to find out what are the pain points that we're trying to address. Then we sat down and built a prototype with some key individuals and asked them, is this what you're looking for? Is this the thing you need to help you in your day-to-day work? And when that was verified, we started actually to build the solution. But because we're having a data platform and are not exchanging a key component or a whole supporting application, because we're having a data platform, that allows us to do piloting and testing at one project and making sure that it's working in the way we expected it to do. And in that way, we also avoid a large, call it change management project, because the functionality will be verified and supported by projects, and they will actually be ambassadors. And at that point, we will then scale the solutions to the other projects. So, and totally, by doing it in this way, by prototyping, piloting, it enables us to move faster. It enables us then to get the results out quicker. And that is again enabled through this data platform that we just shared. So, in a way, to summarize how to approach this, always remember to have a strong focus on the business goals that you're solving. What are the challenges? And then assess the different technology options that you have. And then avoid what we say a patchwork solution and working then call it by chance, and say have a long-term view. And we see this data platform as the stabilizing factor in our digital efforts, allowing us to have a long-term view at the same time as we do piloting, testing, hypothesis, and then releasing it in operations. So the data platform allows that. And that, as I said, the incremental approach as well. And in that part, we can balance really the stability, which you would need in a big company. We are a listed company with 7 billion of revenue annually. So there has to be stability in performance. But then we can combine stability and performance with doing continuous innovation, and also work then with software suppliers who is then at the cutting edge of the niches or the parts of the value chain that they're supporting. And as we say it, even if this call it way of doing it will not give us all the results we're expecting, by structuring our data, that's going to be a non-regrettable investment anyhow, because that's going to pave the way to take advantage of more advanced solution related to AI, which Hasit is going to talk about shortly. So that's important. But just as important is that this can't be done by an in-house organization. We need partners. We need partners who have experience in building products, because we deliberately decided then to work with 99X Group in building this platform because of their experience of building software products. They will document what they do, and they will make sure that we build a scalable, future-proof solution. And that ends my presentation. And Hasit, the table is yours.
Fantastic. Thanks, Espen. Let me get started by sharing my screen. Cool. So Espen, you talked about the data silos in an organization. It's a very important part where we get things to be more cohesive at the data layer. At the same time, data is not the only defragmentation we see in organizations that slows our business processes. The silos in the business processes, silos and fragmentation in the business processes, when the business processes are not cohesive, or when they are not automated, that itself slows down the businesses a lot. And during my presentation, we will look at how we make use of deep tech, AI technologies in addressing this. So we will first look at how software landscape is changing now, and then what we mean by agentic systems. And also we will take a little bit of a deep dive to see the under the hood of AI agents and also platforms that will enable us to build AI agents. So that is what you can expect during the next 20 minutes. To get started, one thing certain about any new technology is that the hype curve. Even mighty AI couldn't escape the hype curve. We had seen the innovation triggers, and we had also seen the peak of inflated expectations on this new trend. And then we are through the trough of disillusionment. And now I think what is interesting is we are here in this curve. This is actually the right time for commercial organizations to take a look at a technology when it is actually on the slope of enlightenment. The reason is by this time there's so much of learning which was gathered by the industry. So if we had invested too much here, it could be that adapting too early. If you have already given up, probably now you had given up a little too early, because this is the right time. If you wait quite a lot from this point onwards, what's going to happen is some of your competition would catch up by capitalizing on the state of technology. So having seen that, we had seen three types of AI systems. First was the chatbots. That is why ChatGPT got its name, because people thought it would be a chat system. And then people realized that more than a chat, it could actually be a co-pilot, helping users side by side. In both chat and co-pilot systems, one of the limitations was the limitation of autonomy. They needed users to be involved, engaged. However, that limitation is not there in agentic type of software. And we are going to deep dive a little bit into agentic software and understand what they are. So one of the things we are seeing in the industry with our customers changing, when we created products or systems in the last 60, 70 years, we expected human users to make use of those products and platforms. And this is changing today. So still we will create line of business products and systems. However, they will be used by human employees, or we call them carbon employees, and digital employees, the silicon employees. And there is a massive market and market opportunity in creating these digital employees or the silicon natives. So what do we mean by a silicon native? How does it differ from the traditional software we created so far? It's extremely important for us to understand this. If you remember the conventional software, the user interactions we had in conventional software, pretty much about actually gathering information in the real world and putting that into a database. Once it's in a data schema, structured schema, and then you can, of course, run logic around it, if else rule-based logic. But as a process of collecting data, we in a way misused users as data entry operators. That is why the early systems looked like a set of forms and lists. Whereas even today, we get users to input data quite a lot. But the future systems will engage users in a more adaptive or natural means, like chat, voice, just like we interact with any other person. And also it will reach through the channels of users' choice. If you are comfortable with the Teams, voice calls, emails, the technology is available today. They can interact with the means where we are comfortable. So that's the first differentiator of the agentic software. The second one, if you think about how the systems behaved, so all this time we had the user in the middle or users in the middle, and then they orchestrated a business process. Somebody will put a request, someone will approve, somebody will make a payment, somebody will ship that software. So users were basically driving the process. They were the doers. But this is changing in the new software. The new software will self-drive. However, if you can see the user here, user actually will be involved, engaged, but as a part of the process, but not as the orchestrator of the business process. The third differentiator we will see is, if you see all of the systems we created so far, they were fairly static unless a human goes and updates data, or we put a new release out to the market. The level of intelligence was fairly static. But the new systems, agentic systems, will learn, adjust, adapt, improve through feedback and through the learnings it gains by performing its tasks. So these three things: how users are interacting, who drives the process, and the ability to evolve autonomously differentiates the future software from the software we had been creating so far. So for us to take a quick look at what do we mean by agentic software, I'll take you to our agentic platform, 99x's agentic platform, and show you a couple of examples of agents so that you understand what they are. So if the platform is will be open source and available for anyone to use within a couple of weeks' time. So if you see here, you will see a few agents we had developed for our customers as well as for the internal use. When I say agents, they can be identified as another colleague working alongside with you. Like for an example, sales assistant. I'll come back to sales assistant later. Or you could also have an EMR agent which helps doctors to gather patient's information before patient connects with the consulting session. There's another agent we had created like that. And of course, you can easily create agents to do customer support. If users are reaching out, the customer support work humans had been doing can be replaced by agents today. And of course, we internally use two agents here. One of it is Percy, Prospector. If you take any business, for the business to grow, you need to get new sales. How do you get new sales? Is by finding out new leads who can be a potential customers, and finding out the new leads is a role of a prospector. So we had prospector as a human, prospector roles as humans performing that. But today we have prospector role and AI agent performing. Like if I very quickly show you the results of it, you can see every day we get profiles of potential customers or potential leads. This prospector will do a lot of internet research and then find out potential leads whom we can convert into customers. You can see we had even got some reports just a few minutes before. So it basically does the research and find out these prospects and send us reports. This helps our sales and marketing functions quite a lot. The interviewer is basically, if you send the interviewer a CV, it will find the phone number and do a bit of a research about the person and the job role and take a call on mobile phone with the person and do the interview. So it replaces some of the burden of we having to interview every job role. I'll also talk a little bit about sales assistant agent here, what you're seeing here. The sales assistant job is to help salespeople. Like for an example, let's say if I have a new sales meeting, let's say Superoffice is one of our great customers who had been with us for a long time. So if I just create a note like sales meeting with Superoffice or a meeting, so basically the responsibility of the sales assistant is to see if watch my calendar. Basically, if there's a sales meeting happening, it will basically ask me if I would like to do some research. If I say yes, do some research, then it will do the background research and offer me on chat, ask me if I would like to take a call and discuss how best to approach this particular sales meeting. So this background research and assisting me in in giving information about what's happening around this lead is basically the responsibility of the sales assistant. Yeah, so if you see, since I got a meeting just a minute ago, I got this. Hi, I found the sales meeting on your calendar with SuperOffice. Would you like me to call you to discuss how best to handle this meeting? So if I say yes, it will do the research about this particular company, and then it will offer me a call. So that's basically the job of a human sales assistant, now done by a digital native. So going back, when you think about agents, okay, since I said yes, I'm getting the call now. If you see, it's calling on my mobile number because it knows me. I won't continue this.
Hi, this is AC, your AI sales assistant.
Hi, AC. I'm at a meeting right now. Can I call you back later?
No problem. Just let me know when you're ready to prepare for your sales call. I'll be here whenever you need me. Good luck with your meeting.
Thanks. So that is what agents are doing. So you need to think when you build future software, what if users are not required to access the products the way they had been doing, but the products will reach out to the users as and when the user's input is needed. So this is the new way of thinking about software. So please keep sending questions if you have any. I will talk a little bit about technologies under the hood related to agents. I won't go too deep, but I'll keep the slide decks later with you for you to take a look at. One thing is when you build agentic AI, you need to ensure human involvement is needed, because finally everything around the world is done because humans have needs and wants. There are three ways humans can get involved in agentic AI. Human in the loop, like doing the approvals, for example, or human over the loop, monitoring what is happening in your agent. Like in an agentic platform, you should be able to exactly see what agent had been doing. This is actually the last agent initiating the call. So, and also, if needed, to have human out of the loop, have the complete flow business process running autonomously. The second thing you need to understand about agents is what they are capable of. A powerful agent is capable of what a human could do. What are we doing day to day? We are sensing the environment, we are getting the sensory inputs, and we are reasoning, we are thinking, we are reasoning, we are doing inference of the information we are getting, and we are doing conversations with other people, with systems, and also we are actioning. So a good agent should have sensing, reasoning, conversing, and actioning capabilities. Like for an example, if you look at the agent, sales assistant agent we looked at a while ago, you have the external world. It has the ability of sensing my calendar. That's the sensing part of it. And then it has the ability of sending me chat messages or taking a phone call with me, or even sending me an email. And then it has capabilities, not only sensing and conversing, it has actioning capabilities. It is the agent is able to do a web research and give me some information, or do a case study preparation of what we had done in the past, so that I can go and present my case studies at the sales meeting, or even do a proposal preparation, create a proposal if I ask it to generate a proposal. So you can see sensing, conversing, and actioning in play. Reasoning is extremely important. This is where LLMs helps. So in all of these actions, you need reasoning. Like for an example, in a conversation, in a chat conversation, it should be able to understand what my intentions are and do the routing accordingly. Or it should be able to see my calendar appointments and do the reasoning to see if it is a sales meeting or not. And same here, there's a lot of reasoning it has to do when it doing actions. So basically, this is the anatomy of an agent, and you had seen that agent in practice also a while ago. And also agent, when you create agents, you don't create agents with a too broad scope, like save the world or save the environment or man on the moon type of agents. Right? You need to give them a small goal scope. An agent should have knowledge. That is where the learning happens. And it should have tools to execute actions. It takes inputs and do the action. So these are the three areas you need to really give the capabilities into creation of agents. I'm not going to go through this one, but you will definitely get the slides. If you are creating agents, it's extremely important that you do not repetitively do all of the background infrastructure platform work for every agent. You need to use the agentic platform so that you can only focus on the functionality. So a good agentic platform should have 12 essential features as per our opinion at 99X. So they are listed here. We will keep the slide deck shared with you for you to take a look at them. And all of these things are built into the platform which we had created and will be released open source in 2 weeks' time. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much. Mace, over to you.
Thank you, Hazit, and thank you, Espen, as well. That was very insightful, I would say. Now let's open up to some questions for the audience. So if there's anything you're curious about when it comes to data platforms, AI agents, breaking down silos in your own organization, feel free to pop it in the chat. Meanwhile, I have a question to you, Hazit. So nowadays, agentic AI seems like a buzzword. Are there any proven examples of how real value in terms of efficiency, productivity, or time savings have been seen using these agents? I know you mentioned the recruiter, but in real life world.
Yes. How we need to look at it is, I would say, I mean, there are quite a lot of claims about productivity improvements, right? I think if you had seen, there are quite a lot of numbers quoted here and there. But I think the ultimate proof of this is in the user adoption. If users are adapting, that means there's value. So historically, if you look at the fastest growth in user adoption was on ChatGPT, but it's I wouldn't call it agentic. It's more of the platform, the LLM part of it. So we had seen at the LLM realm, we had seen historically in the world the fastest user adoption, and in agentic software, in the software world, which software has actually got from 1 million to 100 million revenue at the fastest record time is an agent called Cursor, which is an IDE. It's a development tool done by 4 20-year-old entrepreneurs, founders. They had reached $100 million revenue within 12 months, which is the fastest $100 million revenue by any startup. And I had seen a month ago they were 100 million. Just within 30 days, they had reached 200 million. Now they are 200 million, valued at $4 billion. That is user adoption. I think if you look at the platform layer and the orchestration layer, platform layer is LLMs. We had seen the fastest user adoption so far in the history. Agent layer, which is the orchestration layer, we had seen the fastest user adoption in the history so far. So that proves the value to the users, I would say, in this new tech era.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving to you, Espen, since time is kind of running here. How have you seen business owners responding to to the data platform?
I think if you see how they respond to the data platform, they do not have a direct relationship to the data platform itself, but what they're responding to is how we engage with the end users, how we're really focusing on the problems that we're solving on the business side. And then we're explaining to them that why things might take some time to get into operations is that the data platform has to be built in a way which is scalable. So that means that the data model in the middle here is then something that can be expanded. And I think that understanding is great, but I think the key here is then really by the way we're focusing on solving problems and doing it fast, and our ability to innovate. And that means that there is a lot of engagement at the broader level of the organization. This isn't something which is happening up at a staff office, right? And then we're enforcing it through the organization through PowerPoints. It's continuous, call it communication back and forth with the organizations. So it's very active engagement. And that means that the first 2, 3, 4 months, when starting with, there is a sell-in and a buy-in, but the minute things start to materialize, the pull for more is getting bigger and bigger, and that's great fun.
Thank you, Espen. I have time for another question, I think. Yes, I do. Moving in addition to what you just said, in the longer term, what sort of return of investment is possible by moving to a data platform?
Okay, let me put it this way. If you take a company like NRC Group, which we're working with as well, of course, is having an annual revenue about 7 billion approximately. Is having a profitability expected in around a few hundred millions. If you can reduce the cost base of those 7 billions with a few percentages, then let's say with 1% then, right? That you're scaling down your cost to 660, let's say with 60 millions, that means an enterprise value in this market of around 600 millions.
Right.
So if you're playing with those numbers,
yeah,
that is really the potential that you can be looking at.
Thank you, Espen. One last question to you, Harshit. How can you make agents remember people, history, transactions, so that more complex interactions become possible?
Yeah, that is actually one of the challenging parts in agentic software, because in normal general conventional software we had been creating so far, we had never had this type of user interactions where software has to really remember what users had been doing and take actions accordingly. Like for an example, let's say with an agent, I send it a chat message saying, do a research on XYZ company. And then on email, I will send a proposal saying that, hey, I asked you to do a research a while ago on chat. Would you use this particular document as your baseline, right? And then also I can call it and say, hey, have you done the research, right? So you need the agent should have a way of remembering all of the interactions. So how we do that is in agentic platform, usually you have a memory, and all of these interactions per user is put into one single thread of information, so that whichever the channel you are interacting with the agent, it has a single source of truth of all of the interactions with the user. This is very different from conventional software. We don't have anything like that equivalent in conventional software.
Thank you, Hasit. And I think we have to wrap it up now. So thanks again to our speakers, and thanks to everyone joining us today. If you are interested in learning more, you can reach out to us or go directly to 99x.io. Other than that, have a great day, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mace. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.